And welcome into the Thursday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Thursday morning. We got a lot to sort through on the program here today. More trades made by the Titans since the time we went off the air yesterday. Who knows what else could be coming with the Tennessee Titans? We'll have Predators head coach Andrew Burnett with us on the program at 7:30. And we'll have Charles Robinson with us at 8 o'clock for his weekly visit. And we'll get into the Titans' moves and all things NFL with Charles coming up. But I imagine with Charles, we'll spend a lot of time on the Titans today. So looking forward to that. Joe Rexrode, how we doing? What's going on?
Doing all right. Early practice for Nolensville today.
Really?
So, yeah, because there's a volleyball championship to win.
Oh, okay.
So there you go. Got to support the team.
Absolutely. That's an early practice.
Yeah, they were doing it for heat earlier in the year, and now it's for
championships to go win.
That's right.
That's a good reason. Keyser, how we doing? What's going on?
Good morning. Yeah.
Good morning.
Doing well. A little bit of a later start for me, but we're all on time, and on time is showtime. So
Keyser has no
thriving.
secrets.
That's quite a slogan. What's that?
Keyser has no secrets to the people. He's like, just a little bit of a later start.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say it anyway. So it's better to call yourself out than to be called out. Good
Absolutely.
job, Keyser.
Yep. That's my lesson from PK, I guess. Just
Wow.
let it be known.
Learning is
if he was
the
here.
young pupil
Yeah.
of Paul Kuharski.
Yeah, except it's like he's like the emperor though, so don't go to the dark side.
Yeah.
I just have to use Robbie's GIF all the time then, right?
Yeah, that's the old Palpatine gift. People love that one on Twitter.
That's probably your favorite GIF, huh?
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
I
It
enjoy
works in a lot of ways.
A lot of
It's
different
versatile.
situations
Yeah.
that you can use that thing in.
I was kind of surprised.
Some people hate it.
I was kind of shocked we didn't see it yesterday after seeing Robert Saleh at
I can't
Packers practice.
Yeah, I did see that. He's working with the offense. Shout out to Robert Saleh.
Oh, he's hanging out with his best friend Matt LaFleur?
He is.
Working with the offense.
Yeah, he's helping them find weaknesses in other defenses.
Oh, I got you. Okay, so bringing the defensive eyes to the offense.
Correct.
Sort of thing. Okay.
You need that
good
when you're
for
taking
him.
on the Jacksonville Jaguars this weekend. So
Yeah, at some point, may come in handy. It's
May.
good. Hey, guy's pretty good defensive coordinator.
he was.
I mean,
Yeah.
Why not?
Hey,
It's like kind of like Butch Jones going to Saban sort of thing.
very similar.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure that having been in the great city of Green Bay last month, sure that he might go pick up LaFleur's Chick-fil-A order. I think there's a Men's Warehouse over there somewhere. You could do a bunch of different things.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know. I like Butch, was actually running errands for Nick. I don't
Yes.
know. I don't know if seems like those guys are kind of more equals, but maybe not.
I would say that they
Saleh
are.
fired now.
Also, go look at Matt LaFleur and then go look at Robert Saleh.
Yeah.
Two very different physically imposing creatures
Yes.
at that time.
Yes.
So, just pointing that out. The Tennessee Titans continued, Joe, their fire sale after we got off the air yesterday. Now, let me ask you this before we continue this discussion. Is it fair to call it a fire sale, or is two people a fire sale? In the NFL?
I don't think so. No, I wouldn't call it a fire sale. I think a fire sale is because right now you're talking about two, short-term players anyway.
Yeah.
Now, I could have made the case for Ernest Jones to be someone that they wanted to keep around, but you're also you're not. I think they're paying, Kenneth Murray is like the guy that they want. They're probably going to have. It's like, an inside linebacker. Most teams have someone they pay and then try to get a younger guy in there, like a Cedric Gray, for example,
Right.
who at some point is going to get an opportunity. I think the fire sale happens if you trade a Simmons, if you trade a Landry, if you trade, I don't even know.
It.
I really don't even know who else would be. Because they're not trading these guys in the rookie deals. Like people, and they cannot trade Ridley. So let's please stop talking about trading Ridley. It's just not happening.
Well, I guess
Burks would be maybe. I guess like Burks, someone could look at him and say, "Guys, there's talent there. Sure, here's a 7th."
Boyd, maybe if somebody.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But that's but that's another. He'd be
He's the expiring contract.
He's like these guys. Yeah, like as far as more central to your core,
right?
Really the only two guys who I can think that really would have interest would be those two guys on defense,
right? So Ernest Jones traded yesterday as well, in addition to DeAndre Hopkins, to the Seattle Seahawks. They get back Jerome Baker and a 2025 fourth-round pick in the trade. So I will say, I did not expect the 2025 fourth-round pick in return that the Tennessee Titans got. So while, again, I don't know how many people are getting overly excited for a fourth-round pick or a fifth-round pick, which were involved in the deals the Titans made yesterday. It is nice to get that. And what'd they give up for Ernest Jones? A seventh? Is that what they gave up? Sixth, seventh?
I'll find. I think it was a little higher than a seventh. But they end up, they end up, so he traded
sixth-round pick is what they gave up.
A sixth and a fifth.
Yes, a 2026 fifth-round pick to LA, and they got back a sixth and Jones.
Oh, yeah.
So
they traded a fifth, got back to sixth and Jones.
Yeah.
And then they, of course, they get so essentially it's like you trade a fifth to get a fourth and a sixth.
Yeah.
And to get Baker for the rest of this year. So Adam Schefter says, this is how to make the system work. And he lays that out. And then Kuharski quote tweets him, now do everything else. It's like, yes, it is. Look, it is this deal on its own. And again, I mean, Hopkins is fine too. This deal on its own, it's good. You get fourth-round picks are good. Fourth-round picks are not anything to sneeze at. They're not sixth and seventh-round picks. But yeah, I mean, there's the whole picture is still not great.
It's not very good.
I mean, this is fine. I mean, again, it weakens the team, of course. I like Ernest Jones. He's a good player when I saw. And, Jerome Baker's been in the league for a while. I think that this is, at some point, a chance for Cedric Gray. Can he get healthy? There's just so little indication of what he is, in the preseason. But that's the plan, right, is by Murray and Gray.
Well, and then, yesterday, Brian Callahan gets up there. And none of these deals are complete yet. So, like, he's not going to get up there and, talk in detail about DeAndre Hopkins and Ernest Jones. One thing he did say, though, was, quote, I would expect some movement on our roster for the next period of time. And my big question when I heard that was, all right, is he talking like just specifically with these two? Or is this like an indication that more moves are coming down the line here? And I don't know what the answer is.
I took it as keep an open mind that there might be more. But again, it's like, what would it be? I know PK, Andrew, at least those two put out that the Titans, don't want to trade Simmons or don't intend to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things like I don't think they would get a great offer. But if you get an offer you can't refuse, you get an offer you can't refuse. But look, you do. Again, it's like you have to have football players who can play and prove they can play moving forward. You can't. Like, you don't completely strip yourself to the studs, right?
Yeah.
I'll do Blake Bedingfield had a tweet about this yesterday about the Titans. Same sort of idea. He said they did a good job trading Hopkins, but you can't have a fire sale. You can't replace the Simmons Landry with fourth and fifth rounders. This isn't the MLB with a minor league. Free agency is a filler. It's not a team builder. So, again, I think that's exactly right. I also would say if the Lions can't get Max Crosby, even though every Lions fan in the world is putting out a little picture of Max Crosby in a Lions jersey, and if the Lions can't get, whoever else, I mean, and it's desperation, and they're about to beat the Titans, but they're about to like lose to the Packers because they have no pass rush at all, and you're right at the deadline, and they're like, holy crap, it is desperation. This is a Super Bowl team, except we have no edge rushing. That's where my scenario kicks in, where they overpay badly for a Landry, and then you consider it.
Yeah, I mean, I as you were going through this earlier in the segment, like Landry could be interesting. Simmons could be interesting just in terms of the return that maybe you could get. Beyond that, I'm just not sure that there's a lot on the bone for the Titans right now.
Yeah, the expiring guys, Boyd is a good one. And
but
Diggs.
like, what are you getting for Boyd? Right?
No, you're not getting much.
Yeah.
I mean, these are, low pick, but a Boyd, a Diggs, maybe a Diggs. Like somebody I could see someone being like, okay, veteran safety, still play, help out the rest of the year. So, but those are the way more likely guys to be sent out.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be. I bet you there's like one more at least.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's the NFL, so I would call what the Preds did a couple years ago when they moved on from Niederreiter and Ekholm and Janot and all that was a fire sale.
Absolutely.
Like they were moving people left and right. It's just it's hard to do that in the NFL. Like it's hard to pull that off with any sort of real value coming back the other way. Because usually if you got all that value coming back the other way, you're probably a better team than 1-5, like they are right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's it's just stockpiling picks. And obviously, the Titans are a team that needs a lot of picks. More picks, the better. They can package them. They haven't. That's the thing. They have not done any trading down the last couple of years. They've traded up.
Yep.
So they're a team that needs picks and needs more, but they've been trading up. Well, if you get these picks, I guess you can keep doing that. if you get a whole bunch of picks, you can trade up more.
And with their actions and their record making it increasingly more difficult to avoid draft talk entirely.
Yeah.
Let's say they end up number 1 overall or number 2 overall or whatever it is. And you look around at the quarterbacks this year and you don't feel great about them. We saw John Robinson have the number 1 overall pick, elect not to use it, and weaponized it via trade. And it really was a spark plug for this team just in terms of building the roster. Now, it doesn't always work out that way, but you can weaponize those picks this year and move down and create more picks. Obviously, we're a long way away from that, and you got to go through the whole draft process and all that. I'm just saying you could have options to do that this year.
Yeah, and now the thing about that year was it was pretty, like Goff was people wanted Goff, and so the Rams were like, Goff's our guy, and that was, of course, Jeff Fisher regime still. And so this year,
the Titans already had Marcus, so
right. But I'm saying, in terms of the other teams, is there a guy at the top of this draft that someone's going to be like, you got to have Shedeur, got to have Carson Beck?
I don't know.
Because that helps it. That makes it more valuable if you have someone that it's like, oh my God, everybody's trying to get to this guy. I don't know who it is right now,
unless
if there will be one.
And then there's years like the Kenny Pickett year where it's like, we'll take one quarterback in the first round and it's 20th overall.
Yeah, that year was every bit as bad as people said it was.
Yes, it was. 615-737-1025. Our phone number 615-737-1025. We know the terms now for the DeAndre Hopkins conditions, which are pretty interesting. And Rexrode has devised a scenario which I think is feasible and would make Titans fans just sick. We'll get into that as well. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Thursday morning. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025. We'll have the best and worst things in sports coming up at 6:45. We'll take your best things, your worst things on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Joe, we now know the conditions for which the trade for DeAndre Hopkins was made yesterday. So the announcement of the trade, it was rumored to be happening right before we went on the air yesterday. It took some time to get officially done, but the move gets done, and the conditions that were put out there from, I think Schefter had it first, and Kuharski put it out there too. Quote, the fifth rounder that turns into the fourth, the Chiefs make the Super Bowl, and Hopkins plays 60% of their snaps for the remainder of the season for the fifth-round pick to turn into a fourth-round pick for the Titans. So a Super Bowl trip to for the Chiefs, and Hopkins has got to play 60% of the snaps for the rest of the year. What do you make of those conditions?
I mean, it sounds like we're playing like Stratomatic football, right?
It really does.
Sounds like little kids trading baseball cards or something. Yeah,
if you clean
I've never heard of this. Yeah, exactly. I'll do the dishes. Yeah, I've never heard of something like that. I mean, hey, the Chiefs have won 2 in a row, so but it's
not the worst bet.
Yeah, but it's just the 60%. I kind of think that there'd be a pretty good chance of that. Now, of course, all it takes is one little tweaked hammy for a couple games, and the Chiefs can get out of it that way.
Well, they're also 6-0, so if they've wrapped up the number 1 seed in the AFC by like week 16, it's like, DeAndre, just find yourself on the bench over there for a little while. We'll see you in the playoffs.
Hey, Hop, do you care if these guys get a fourth? Nah, screw them. Okay.
All right, cool.
All right. Yeah, I mean, but the Super Bowl thing is really interesting. But I had this idea I got to give credit to Jake, friend of the show. I think Jake. We were gonna have Jake on at one point, and then we didn't. We never have.
Talking about our man Jake from Greenbrier.
Yeah, Jake from Greenbrier. We don't have that many guests on. But Jake had this tweet, and I put it in the grid. He's like, Derrick Henry's going to run for a dagger 35-yard first down with 2 minutes left in the AFC title game and screw the Titans over, isn't he? Like, oh, my God. First of all,
I can see it.
First of all, Ravens, Chiefs alone being in the AFC title game, so here for it. Not sure it's going to happen. I think the Bills are going to have something to say about that. Is there anybody else in the AFC? Yeah, the Texans might have something to say about it.
I mean, the
Texans might have something to say about it.
Texans will definitely have something to say about it. Pittsburgh Steelers. They're 5-2, aren't they?
Yeah, about good for them, but yeah, I don't.
Colts are 4-3.
Oh, come on now. All right, now you're just trolling me.
Broncos are 4-3.
Yeah, there we go. God, AFC kind of sucks, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
I mean, the Titans. As
Bengals are 3-4.
As rough as it, so I could actually buy your Bengals, making a run if they put everything together over that. But basically, yeah, I think there's 4 teams that I could see getting the Super Bowl, and it's those 4 Ravens. So, but Ravens, Chiefs in a title game, which of course is just absolute misery for Titans fans. But again, I do hope that with Hopkins, he was here for a good year, whatever. And a lot of people are sick of the Chiefs, but I do hope that Titans fans, despite what Kuharski screams, are enjoying to some extent what they're seeing from Derrick Henry with the Ravens.
Yeah.
But they've got to, that I think they're special. They blew one game. They are going to be right there. And maybe this time they repay the favor in Kansas City, like the Chiefs did to them last year in Baltimore. And yes, what if that's the case? The Chiefs get denied and the Titans get denied. I mean, when it comes down to it, how big of a deal is it to have a fifth instead of a fourth? Not, but still, now that we know the stakes of the deal, you know what to root for.
Exactly. David in Arkansas says, I would almost rather just settle for the fifth and have, rather than have to cheer for the Chiefs in another Super Bowl. The difference between the two won't make or break our team with many needs. Just to point out,
probably a good perspective.
They don't have to win the Super Bowl. They just got to get there.
That's right. So would you enjoy the Chiefs getting there, their fans being all excited about becoming the first three-peat ever, and then them losing?
Maybe so.
Maybe
so. Although I think a lot of people are reaching the point of, somebody else can get there. That's fine. Just somebody else get in there.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to happen, though. Matt from D.C. on the text line. The biggest difference between this rebuild team And the ones before is there's no leaders. There is no Taylor Lewan, no Ben Jones, no Delaney Walker. This may be a rougher process than before. This from Matt from DC on the text line. What do you think of that?
Well, first of all, get us into the face of the franchise stuff. Lewan was not a leader on that team.
He's captain.
Yeah, he was stripped.
I'm just saying he's captain.
Malarkey's like, nope, let me take that C off the jersey. But I mean, he eventually, he became one. But Jones was a new guy coming in, right?
Yeah.
And when they basically started the rebuild, I mean, it's kind of the idea of Cushenberry. The same idea, veteran center who's performed well. I mean, Jones, as everybody knows, a guy would have played football like with like his head decapitated. I'm trying to think of I don't want to get gross. Like he would
walk out on the field
anything.
at like Lambeau Field or in Kansas City when it's 3 degrees, and you walk out there on bare feet before every game. You're just kind of built a little bit differently.
Yeah, he and Conklin did that.
Yeah,
in Kansas City. But yeah, so I agree, Matt. On there's a void for sure. Byard, Henry, Tannehill, those are the primary leaders. They're gone. But look, I think J.C. Latham will get there. I think he's destined to be a guy who is a leader for whatever this team looks like moving forward. I absolutely think he's that a guy like that. He's a rookie, so the rookie becomes a second-year player, and a lot of times you see a big difference there. So leaders will emerge there. I think an NFL team, you got 53 guys in the active roster. Guys who best player on their college team, best player on the high school. It's a lot of guys who are captains, but you have to be a great player. Will Levis could be a good leader for this team. I think Will Levis could be a good leader for a football team. You have to play well.
Yeah, like that's part of it. Like it's hard to listen to what players have to say when they're one of, if not the primary reasons you're losing football games, right? Like It's like, hey man, why don't you go worry about you and I'll worry about me and we'll figure all that other stuff out later.
Yeah.
That's what it turns into.
Yeah. All they can really do is lead, by example or by mea culpas, and they can't really, hold anybody else accountable.
Right.
So, but I just don't think that's that. I think right now there is a little bit of a, Simmons has kind of been thrust in that role. And I just, I think in some way he's like the bring intensity fire guy, but not obviously he's just preoccupied by dumb crap and he's not playing at a super high level right now. But look, the funny thing is I actually think Ernest Jones could have been one of those guys, but he's gone now, so never mind.
I agree.
Quandre Diggs is a leader. Now, how long is he going to be here? Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, I think Amani Hooker is a leader, but like Amani Hooker and Harold Landry, those guys are everything you want in a pro. They're not like out there vocal guys, but that, they have guys in the organization that can do that. They're just overall losing and not very good right now.
Yeah, and that's the biggest problem. And I think I'm more concerned about it on the offensive side of the ball than I am the defensive side. Because, I mean, the quarterback eventually needs to be part of that. And right now, he's just really not. And then, I would certainly put Hopkins in there, and now he's gone. So I do think there's a void on that side of the ball. We'll have more on the Titans coming up next. Take your thoughts. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. We'll have the best and worst things in sports at 645. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game.
you didn't expect that to happen. How much did this 1-5 record that you guys have now, how much did that impact the change of direction that you guys are going?
No, it's the reality of the NFL. That's the reality of the NFL business. And when you're in a spot that we're in, one that we didn't want to be in, didn't expect to be in necessarily, but when you're in those spots, these are the things that come with it. That's part of our life in a league. And when you get to these juncture points in the season and things like this happen, I mean, it's usually because you're in the spot we're in. The teams that are opposite of our record are the ones trying to acquire players, and so that's just the cycle, and that's how it works. And we're in a spot right now that I'm trying to find a way to dig out of, but that's the reality of business in the NFL.
As Brian Callahan yesterday explaining the cycle in the NFL and the spot that the Titans are in at 1-5. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. We're taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines on the Titans, 615-737-1025. What do you make of this question from Matt from Fairview? If Matt Stafford isn't traded before the deadline, would that be a great veteran in the offseason to snag, or is it too expensive and we need younger? This is from Matt from Fairview. Your boy, Matt Stafford.
That's an interesting question. We talked about like Darnold and Fields as and those are obviously younger guys who, I credit to Stilly, who lost spectacularly yesterday in Jared versus Joe with good judging by Adam Vingan. Good to have a good judge on the Jared versus Joe.
Is that me catching strays?
Well, yeah, just whatever, Yeah. Take it however you want it.
All right.
But the Stafford thing is not something I had really thought about. But obviously the Rams are like it looks like it seems like they're trying to unload. The Rams look like they're like, okay, they're maybe in a fire sale situation.
Could be.
It's interesting because like McVay has sort of hinted at, going to the booth. I'm sure he'd get paid way too much money to do that.
I feel like he would be excellent at that. But yeah,
I think he would be too. But now it seems like, maybe he's in on this and it's time to start over, the Stafford thing. I mean, how old is Matthew Stafford now? We're seeing Aaron Rodgers.
36.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's like Tom Brady.
He'll be 37 in February.
Tom Brady, 14 hours of sleep, 3 avocados a day, not avocado tequila.
Save that for the parade.
Yeah, and have 2 shots and act like you've been sitting there all day drinking Irish whiskey at the belly up at the bar, But that like he's a freak, and we kind of forget. I think Aaron Rodgers is reminding us now, right? Like 38, is that what he is? Or Rodgers 40 now?
Rodgers 40.
He's reminding us. Yeah, actually, I mean, yes, there's a longer lifespan in these careers, but you get up there around that age, and most guys are going to show it. And I think we've seen some of it with Stafford too. So look, as a short-term fix, it might be good. I think with him and a lot of guys, look, the state of the Tennessee Titans doesn't help.
Yeah, how appealing is that?
I've seen Raiders fans this week, for example, because you just can't avoid Raiders fans. They just are always screaming somewhere. There's been a lot of Tannehill talk there. It's like, guys, he absolutely is not coming back for your crappy team.
No.
Ryan Tannehill, and we're getting, it's getting late now. If a contender loses their quarterback, then Ryan Tannehill's picking up the phone.
Right.
Otherwise, what? No. And that's the problem with the Titans is what's the vision? What's the plan? What are the prospects? How do things look? If I'm a quarterback with the Titans, I'm like, wow, seems like they get quarterbacks hit an awful lot. They just traded away DeAndre Hopkins. Oh, Derrick Henry's gone too, et cetera, et cetera. So that's, the issue. But we're treading into the offseason draft quarterback acquisition stuff. We have a lot of time for that, guys. A lot of time.
There's no doubt about that. Lance says Tavondre Sweat will be the leader on defense soon.
Yeah, it's interesting. If does he become a great player? He is. I really like Tavondre Sweat. I really enjoy him. I think he's hilarious. And so far, look, it's not like he's out there dominating by any means. You see flashes of that. Is he going to become a dominant player? I mean, I could see him being so, there's still so much of him to like prove himself and become a consistently great player, but I don't know that he's like JC Latham. Yes, that guy's going to be a leader. They like that. Sweat might be a little bit more of the, comedy relief, but
Yeah.
if he's a great player, then if he part
Yeah, I'll take the
part of
great players.
leadership.
You
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
As Ed points out, and I don't know that I totally agree with this, but I get the general point. It says leadership, they're 1-5. Win games and leadership takes care of itself. Trading away leaders, I mean, it can get worse, but who cares? This is from Ed on the text line.
That might be a little extreme.
I would agree with that. Like it's a little extreme, but like give me a bunch of great players and we can, we can try to figure out some leaders while we're doing that. I'd rather have the great players.
Yeah, look, Kevin Byard, great player and a natural leader. So if that's what you're looking for, right? If you have that, that's perfect. And it does
Same
matter.
thing in a different way with Derrick Henry. Yes.
See, Derrick Henry is a great example of someone. I remember doing this story on him last year and talking to guys and stuff. And it was like, I don't remember who even told. I think it was like Terry Robisky. It was like, he didn't say a word for 2 years, like he just sat in the corner and he was like behind DeMarco Murray. And so who knows? And then he becomes a great player. And all of a sudden you start to hear him a little more, especially that AFC title game run. It was like, wow, Derrick Henry's actually like talking to the guys now. It took years.
Yeah.
But that does not come before playing well. It
Exactly.
can't.
Well, and we've talked about, Simmons. If Simmons was playing to the level that they're paying him to play at right now, then maybe you see a little bit more of that too. But again, like in a perfect, like go through the league right now. How many teams don't have like the quarterback as one of their main leaders, right? Like it's hard to find some. It's in, some of those guys are really young. Same thing with Levis, right? Like he's young, he's trying to find his way, and he hadn't found it yet. And the on the field play has not been good. But like that position is a position where that stuff is important. Like you have to. That's part of playing quarterback in the NFL. Like you have to be good at that. And it's not always the same style. Like not everybody's Tom Brady screaming on the sideline over there, but there's an element of that I think you have to be an effective quarterback in the NFL. That's not necessarily the case at all positions in the NFL, but quarterback is definitely one of those where you got to have at least some of that.
There's not a good quarterback in the league who isn't one of the top 2-3 leaders on their team.
Exactly.
Ryan Tannehill was a great leader. Again, this
sure.
is another great, Ryan Tannehill, the 3-pick game, all of a sudden he became the worst QB and biggest idiot loser ever, right?
Yeah.
It's like not my job to mentor Malik and people freak out and all that stuff. But Ryan Tannehill was a great leader. Now, it's interesting because Mariota, of course, that was a big knock on him and guys would leave and whatever. DeMarco Murray, Eric Decker, some of those guys would say, yeah, he didn't talk enough. So anyway.
But again, like
Marcus,
even that though, like
talk.
But you say that, Joe, and that's right. But even when that stuff happens, like if he played really, really well, what the conversation would be? It would be, man, that guy doesn't say a word, but man, he steps on the field and we're just inspired by the way he plays.
Yeah.
Like it comes down to the way you play.
Well, and even like that when he had that run against the Jags, he talked some trash.
Barry Church.
People were like, yes, there
exactly.
we go. That's what I'm talking about. So no, you have to have that. And again, Levis has that. Levis, if he was good, he'd be very good in the leadership role. He would be. But right now, he's trying to find his game.
Colin on the text line, you'll love this. Based on the moves yesterday, should we hear from Rand Carthon about the direction? This is from Colin on the text line.
So Willie Donick said he's betting. He's betting on Carthon is going to talk this week.
I'm not sure I like that bet.
He said he's going to bet him $500. I'm like, I don't know that Willie's going to throw that much on there. But, yeah, I mean, look, I said 35-65 yesterday. I'll stick to it. I guess now that we're at Thursday.
We're running out of time.
I'll go ahead to 25-75.
Okay.
Maybe during the show we'll get the email from the Titans that Rand Carthon is going to talk.
I mean, I feel like today would probably be the day, right? Maybe tomorrow.
I will say this. It's October 24th. So, they dealt Hopkins, they dealt Jones.
They wait to the deadline?
Yeah, that's when he should talk. That's fine. If you wait to the deadline, that's fine. That counts. Okay. And that's what, like, Robinson used to do that. I know some people, it's like not every GM doesn't do it. And that's true. For example, Mike Mayock didn't talk to anybody. Well, he sucked and he was out of there. And I'm not saying it's not a positive correlation of GM talk to the media who's good and the bad ones don't, but a lot of them do, and they all should.
I agree. Like it's the National Football League. I mean, come on. Let's get this
you have
going.
a pretty important job that pays well.
615-737-1025, our phone number. 615-737-1025. The best and worst things in sports. Coming up next, we'll take your best things, your worst things on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game.
The best and worst of the sports week, now on Robby and Rexrode.
On ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
This is the worst. You look like you're feeling sorry for yourself. I believe in miracles. Yes! Unbelievable.
He's one of one. He is him.
This is a Coke bottle. It's not a crystal ball.
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
Okay, let's go. It is time for the best and worst things in sports here on Robby and Rexrode. We'll take your best things, your worst things on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Joe Rexrode, kick us off with your best and worst things in the world of sports.
Best basketball. Oh, look at these sweet. Right as I say this, look at Steph. Chef Curry. Now that's the chef who's cooking. Always.
Wow.
Look at my Dubs putting up 139.
Does he have a hat?
Putting up 139 on the what's that?
Does he have a chef's hat? Or is that just
I don't know. I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
But basketball's here. It's amazing. It's exciting. And that includes soon, folks. College hoops. Don't worry. I just want you to know. Tomorrow's Athletic. New bracket-enterologist Joe Rex will have his first preseason college basketball bracket. So check it out. My worst, I got to go back to like the Vols noise thing. There's so many angles to it. I already had a rant about the people who didn't take my joke. I tried another joke yesterday just because I just am in total trolling mode and no one mistook it. So that's good. We're making progress. This continues on. The Alabama guy, did you see his comment?
No.
Oh,
he said something?
Yes. I mean,
is this Chris Stewart?
Yeah, and it was like, I wasn't really saying that, but they amplify it. Like, again, so he's saying
you're saying
same,
what you said. Yeah.
Right. So now you got these pictures on the sideline. Who is this guy? This is this is an AL.com.
I've seen this.
And he's got
the
this
speakers?
picture of the speakers.
Yeah.
So now you have to have one of these, readers added context, which happens to go with certain politicians a lot on Twitter, says these speakers do not pump in crowd noise. They amplify music from the band and DJ, which is why they're facing the crowd.
Yes. Exactly.
I mean, like everybody, like Josh Pate is on there like, this is wrong. Cole Kubelik, who does silence, like I've walked by those speakers a million times. They don't guys.
They got a DJ.
They don't need help. They
There's
don't need crowd
people
noise
in the building.
Right. It's really insane. I mean, I guess this is like I wasn't on board with the whole, oh my God, Alabama, your program is so poverty now that you have to grasp onto this. But now that it keeps going, I'm actually a little bit concerned about the Alabama fan base. That's my worst in sports.
Nick Keiser, your best and worst things in the world of sports.
Well, the best thing around here is that there's another team to maybe get excited about. The Preds finally got their first win of the season, so have reason for optimism there.
Woo, 1-5, baby.
Yeah.
Okay.
1-5, just one
Preds.
win. Sorry,
All right.
I'm kind of going quick here this morning with my quick thought, but I'd say just them getting that one win. And then last night, my worst, and I didn't know that this was going to maybe happen whatsoever. I don't know if you guys have kept up with Grayson McCall retiring.
I did see that.
That was, that was very quick, but good for him on deciding what's best for him. And hey, maybe Tua, you might want to look over to a guy in college that's kind of thinking about his future long term. But not good. Wishing the best for a guy like that. That I think it was 2 weeks after the Vols game when he got hurt. I think.
It may have been either the week after or a couple weeks later. Yeah,
I mean, it was fast. So, yep, not great for him. But maybe he can start swaying the minds of others. I don't know.
Well, he took a pretty scary hit. He was down for a while. So Grayson McCall, we see more and more guys talking about that. We talked, over the offseason with Patrick Willis, who didn't really do that, but like he retired earlier than most people thought he would, just based on some of the injuries that he either sustained or that he was worried about sustaining in the future.
Yeah.
So we do see that happening in football.
Definitely.
Yep. My best thing in sports, I mean, it's Tennessee taking down Alabama. I'll go a little bit more specifically, though. Will Brooks is taking a lot of crap from the Tennessee fan base. He's made a couple of huge plays this year. Number one in the NC State game where he had the pick six, which basically ended that game and started the blowout against NC State. And then the pick of Jalen Milroe the other night. Now, everybody keeps yelling about him not being on scholarship. I'm sure that there's some things happening that probably are offsetting that. But Will Brooks has played good football so far this year. It was a big question mark for him heading into the year. Like, is that a big weak spot on Tennessee's defense? And so far, the answer to that question is no. And he's playing good football. So Will Brooks, my best thing in sports.
He is. He's playing good football. Jamad McCoy is a legit corner.
Yep.
That, wasn't who I would have guessed would be the guy who would emerge like that, but he has. So they're good. That's a pretty good best beating Bama in football.
There's that.
Doesn't happen.
My
every
worst
day.
thing in sports, Titans fans, it's been a rough time for you, but I need you to take some solace here for a second. You're not the worst team in the league. You're not. Now, you may be on the short list, and matter of fact, you are on the short list, but you are not the worst. The Carolina Panthers are the worst. They are 1-6 against the spread this year, and that's bad enough, but it's like pretty significant. I mean, you've been making a living out of that.
Absolutely.
In Pigskin Pick'em. But I saw some of the numbers yesterday. Like, they're getting throttled against the spread. They were I think they were a 10.5-point underdog by the time the game came around against Washington the other day. They lost by 33, and Jay Daniels threw 5 passes. Like, they are truly horrendous. And now you have Andy Dalton and his family getting in a car crash. Thankfully, they're okay. But it doesn't look like he's going to play this week. So Bryce Young is getting rolled back out there after he was basically abandoned by the organization. You had Dave Canales getting up there yesterday talking about, well, yeah, we just hope we can get Andy where he's able to back up in the game. So at least we'll have him available out there. And it's just like, wow. So you can talk about Bryce Young. Like, he's right there. He's going to go play. It's just, it's an absolute tire fire. So Titans fans, take solace. You're not the worst team. The Carolina Panthers are.
And clearly the worst owner, by the way.
Yes.
Which makes it hilarious. I'm seeing some Dave Canales talk, and it's like, guys, you do understand the problem, right? But hey, that's what happens in markets. Sometimes people who may not have the great grasp on everything think that everybody should be fired all the time, and that'll keep fixing things.
Megan on the text line saying the best thing was being privy to this conversation. Never seen anything more relatable. And it was your conversation back and forth with Team YouTube on Twitter when you were trying to find some things out the other day.
Wait, what?
Go look at the back and forth conversation that you had on X, formerly twitter.com.
Wait, this is on Twitter? I can read this, or I can read this on YouTube?
It's on the text line. It's a screenshot of your conversation with the customer service at YouTube.
Oh,
the other day.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It was very
I'm
beautiful.
having some issues
We had
with the
several
YouTube.
people want us to do an entire segment on that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that honestly, Twitter is mostly just absolute trash, but sometimes I'll use it. Like, please help me.
Yes.
My phone doesn't work. Please help me. I mean, I've done it on a few things. So I did get the help I needed. Thank you. I like Kevin in Smyrna has a big picture. Where's Kevin in Smyrna? I wanted to read his. He said, the best thing, camaraderie in sports with a good team win. One of the bad things is overly obnoxious fans, exampling poison your trees, taking rivalries way out of bounds. Wow. But also, we didn't talk. He brings the Alabama faking an injury. That could actually be in the best. That fake injury, the guy's like, run out there and throw yourself on the field. The fact that didn't work was, heartwarming to me because I was like, guys, like, this is really bad. It's not even a player on the field falling.
It almost legitimately caused me to flip a table. It almost happened. 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. We will get back into the Titans coming up next, including some comments yesterday from John Mclain on Chasing Big Joe that were pretty interesting. We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, the game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Thursday morning. Predators head coach Andrew Brunette will join us at 7:30. Preds will be looking for win number 2 in a row coming up tomorrow against the Chicago Blackhawks. We'll get into that with Brunette coming up a little bit later this hour. Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports will be with us at 8 o'clock for his weekly visit. Obviously, lots of things to get into with the Tennessee Titans, so we'll get into that with Charles coming up at 8 o'clock. John Mclain was on with Chase and Big Joe yesterday, and obviously there's a ton to talk about right now with the Titans. Mclain has been around this organization and around the National Football League in general for as long as anyone. And we've had John on our show. We always love his perspective. He's basically an encyclopedia of NFL knowledge, which for you kids used to be a place where you could find information. How many kids know what an encyclopedia is right now?
That's a good question.
Do your children know what an encyclopedia is?
I don't know. Probably like Jack, who was in college.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's a good question.
I bet most don't.
Those commercials used to be constant on Encyclopedia Britannica, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
A dictionary, a thesaurus, and then what else is there? You got
Well, but the dictionary and thesaurus, at least, those are like online entities,
Yeah,
and they're
that's
still
true.
called that.
Right.
But I guess the encyclopedia is Wikipedia.
pretty much.
I guess.
Keyser, did you ever use a phone book?
Yeah, I actually did. We got one every year put on our front porch, and it was the Yellow Pages.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep, I got it every year.
That's-
I used
that
to-
kinda
I used
shocks
to
me.
deliver those.
I used to call my friends on the landline too, believe it or not.
Wow. How about that?
Yep,
Wow.
and bike to people's houses.
Wow.
Good.
Keyser's an old
All right.
soul.
We're all boomers.
Yep. McLean was on yesterday, and there's a narrative out there. We've heard it some on our text line. We've heard it some on the YouTube chat, which, by the way, YouTube chat getting a little hostile right
People
now.
are really screaming at each other on there.
They really are.
Calm down, folks.
That the Titans should have hired a more experienced general manager or a more proven, accomplished general manager to run the football team than what the current setup is with Rand Carthon and Chad Brinker. And McLean kind of addressed that yesterday on Chasing Big Joe. It's a long answer. It's worth playing in its entirety. Here's what John McLean had to say.
I have no idea. Everybody's been wondering about that. It's like the GMs get the blame for hiring the coaches. And so it's hard for them. Jeff Diamond, who was executive of the year when he was with the Vikings, then he came to the Titans, and Jeff Fisher led them to the Super Bowl. But when Jeff got fired, he never got another chance. And that happens across the league. Charlie Casserly, who was here, helped Washington, played a role in 3 Super Bowl winning teams, came here as the first GM, hired Gary Kubiak, drafted D'Amico Ryans, the greatest draft they'd had until the one last year. He's never got another chance. The NFL is littered with GMs, and a lot of them are on TV now or on some website where they're using their expertise, and they like new guys. They like fresh blood. They like getting them from winning organizations. You think they're complaining in Detroit because they have a first-time GM? Washington has a first-time GM who worked with Rand Carthon in San Francisco. So I remember they had one here. Everybody said, "Oh, you can't have a first-year head coach in Gary Kubiak and a first-year general manager in Rick Smith," and they won the team's first 2 division titles and playoff games. And so you can't turn it around in a short period of time. It just doesn't happen. And now they got lucky because in Washington, because they were in a position to get Jaden Daniels. Chicago did a great job. Chicago, Detroit, Washington, 3 teams that are winning, all have first-time GMs. And I remember when Jason Light left the Patriots to go to the Buccaneers. He's won a Super Bowl. He's been there for years. He worked with John Robinson. What I'm surprised is that John Robinson, to me, would have to go back into a front office and work like in personnel or assistant GM and be with a winning team, and then help him get another head coaching job. And by the way, I'm looking over teams that definitely need quarterbacks. Right now, we'd say the Titans, definitely Cleveland.
Yeah.
They're not going to cut Deshaun Watson after this season because their dead cap would be double more than double what Russell Wilson's 85 was. I think it'd be 172. So they keep him around next year. They could pay him not to play, which they did here in 2021, or he could be a backup, or he could get another shot to start. But they've got to get a rookie to get ready to develop. The Raiders desperate for a quarterback. And you think the Titans are going to be. We don't know about the Panthers and the Giants. You know, they could move on because highly drafted quarterbacks that neither the coach and the general manager were there when they were drafted. And when I watched Pittsburgh beat the Jets, I'm thinking, okay, aren't the Jets going to need to be looking for a new quarterback next year, even if Aaron Rodgers comes back? And then I thought Pittsburgh, Russell Wilson had a good, not great game.
Yep.
They benched Justin Fields. So you're supposed to make moves based on winning a Super Bowl. Will the Steelers think in the offseason they can win a Super Bowl with Russell Wilson or Justin Fields? Maybe they will. They could be in the market. But the top three teams for sure right now would be Cleveland, Las Vegas, and Tennessee.
That was John Mclain on Chase and Big Joe yesterday. And it is interesting. You know, he brings up, you look around the league right now. You know, I remember when John Robinson got fired. And we talked about, well, John Robinson probably did enough just based on his winning percentage, which, by the way, for those of you who don't know, is 61%. As Jared has pointed out, approximately 250 times in the last 2 weeks. It's 61%, but he did. I mean, he drafted Derrick Henry. They won some division titles. They got to the AFC title game. Like, I remember when the day after he got fired, we talked about, you know, other than the shock of firing him when they did, he'd probably get another general manager job at some point. Well, that has not happened yet. A lot of these general managers that get fired or discarded are just kind of out there right now, and teams are going with new guys. There's a lot of first-time general managers around the league right now. What do you make of that process and how we've gotten to that point in the NFL?
Yeah, I don't have a great answer on that other than, I mean, I think teams want, like John said there, they want the young guy who's been in the organization that has been winning, that has the formula. So again, Rand Carthon here, Adam Peters in Washington. Those are the 2 and 3 to John Lynch. And, yes, you can say, Kyle ultimately has finals, but, they have a front office. They do the job. They find the players. They've been highly successful. So that's the model. And Brad Holmes is a great example, of course. Guys with the Rams who got the Lions job, and it's been incredible how well he's drafted. So that's just the model. Now, I will say on John Robinson, one thing to keep in mind on John Robinson is, when Amy Adams-Strunk decided to just fire him in the middle of the season, a few months after giving him the huge extension, there's a whole bunch of money that he is getting paid. Yeah. And he's going to get paid that money.
Absolutely.
And so there's no offsetting of that money. And so that is part of it. But I think Mclain's right. Like if he wants to be a GM again, he probably has to kind of go back in and work his way up. Which is kind of weird. It doesn't work that way in coaching. Why doesn't it work that way in coaching? If you have success as a coach, you're probably going to get a second and third chance.
Yeah.
So it's strange. Jared and I got into a little argument in his latest defeat on Jared versus Joe. The usual. It was good judging. Adam Bingen. So his thing now, Jared, of course, fire everybody, of course, although, he argued that he only wants to fire people when he's right. He wants to fire all these guys. And so he wants to bring back an experience. He's on we need an experienced GM train, right? Okay. So I'm like, who? Because the thing is, it's like Michael Lombardi, right? He, like John Mclain said, he's on this podcast.
Yeah, he's doing podcast,
ripping everybody and, doing Vrabel's bidding or whatever he's doing. But
there is some of that.
He seems to love Vrabel and Belichick a lot. So his name was Rick Spielman. Now, for people who don't know, Rick Spielman got fired, I guess, a couple of years ago by the Vikings, had a successful run. Rick Spielman did some things like, he drafted Justin Jefferson. I guess that's a no-brainer, but still, it's a good pick. Dalvin Cook, Danielle Hunter, it's Harrison Smith's a good pick.
Yep.
Also, let's see. First-round picks from Rick Spielman. Jeff Gladney, Garrett Bradbury, Mike Hughes, Laquan Treadwell.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if Jared was there when Rick Spielman was there making those picks?
Yeah. Yes, I can.
So, I mean, again, I'm not saying that Rick Spielman couldn't do a good job, but everyone who ends up getting – like we are acting like these guys over here have committed the crimes of the century, or some people are. I mean, you can find smudges on any GM who does this job for any amount of time.
Sure.
And ultimately it is. It is absolutely about your record. I mean, ultimately, do you put together winning teams? And these guys better do it fast.
Well,
I mean, we can all agree on that.
I'm going to say something that for some Titans fans is controversial. I don't know why it is, because I do agree with Jared from this standpoint. The record was what it was. Like, I think John Robinson was a good general manager in this league. He just made some horrendous decisions that was capped off, excuse me, by the A.J. Brown trade at the end of his tenure. And, GMs at the end of their tenure, usually that's why you lose your job, right? It's because you've made bad draft selections and the roster starts to fall apart. It's a little bit different from coaching from that standpoint. So, I think John Robinson, if he got another GM job, could do a good job. I just don't know. Is he going to get one? Like, is he interested in that? It is very weird the way that kind of works in the NFL.
It is. Yeah. It's just you're basically, you got your shot, and you better, and if you look through the league at the general managers in the league, I mean, look, there's a lot of GMs who, have been around a long time. And some of them, like Chris Ballard, he's holding on, and it's like, man, Chris Ballard just keeps that job. And, but like Roseman, there's some long-term, like, so a lot of these guys hold it. You're able to hold it through some ups and downs. You have to have some good ups, though. There aren't a ton of fast GM firings.
Not a ton.
Yeah. I think coaches get fired faster. They also have a chance to be rehired GMs, and that's how you should do it. Again, unless you own a team, let's say a hypothetical owner out there owns a team and losing, and it's disappointing, and it's not going well, and everything you see is telling you that the people don't know what they're doing. And if you own a team, gosh, I hope you talk to people. I sure hope you have some sort of involvement in your very lucrative business. Well, then, that's information that has to matter. But firing GMs after a year or two is usually not a good idea. And I judge GMs. Yes, you can screw up trades and free agency. You can be good or bad there. Drafts, that's what it's about. John Robinson was a great GM, and then he was a bad GM. I mean, if you just judge him by the draft, he was great, and then he was bad.
Yeah. Well,
overall, he was good.
Overall, he was good. But toward the end, it started to go the other way. Like we've talked about this 1,000 times. You start missing on some of your first-round picks, and then you trade A.J. Brown. I mean, that's how it goes in the league. Now,
and pick Treylon Burks.
But I think that
for a third straight terrible first-round pick.
Exactly. So that you do that long enough, you're going to find yourself out of a job in the National Football League. But it is interesting that maybe that's his last shot. And this is not just a John Robinson specific thing. The larger point is a lot of teams around the league go for the first-time unproven guy. And you don't see a lot of the retread general manager in today's
Almost
NFL.
None.
615-737-1025. We'll take some of your reaction to that. You already got some on the text line. We appreciate their participation as always. More coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Attention builders, remodelers, and homeowners. Pella Windows and Doors invites you to their showroom grand opening tomorrow from 3 to 7 at 256 East Main Street in Hendersonville. Discover premium windows and doors, enjoy food and drinks, and see how Pella can transform your home. Chase McCabe and Willie Donick will be broadcasting live on location there, and there will also be some raffle prizes given away, including Preds tickets, Arctic coolers, and more. So make sure you check that out. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Oh, and the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Got Jacob from Murfreesboro on the text line. Says, I know there were other factors and things kind of culminated to a point, but I do wonder if they never trade AJ or both J-Rob and Vrabel still here. This is from Jacob from Murfreesboro.
Possibly.
Maybe. Could be.
Certainly. Could be possible.
That was no doubt a damaging move. And again, like the more time that goes past from that point, Joe, certainly the Cincinnati game, but it does kind of feel like the AJ Brown trade was like the line of demarcation for this franchise in some ways. Like it's been pretty steadily downhill ever since then.
Right. And it's like the on the field, it was the loss of the Bengals, the 3 picks, and then off the field, it was AJ. Well, think about that 2022 team. You're talking about a team that was 7-3. Now it's funny because the 7-3 came on the night that Traylon Burks, like the one time in his career, he looked like he might be a playmaker in the NFL at Green Bay, right?
Yeah.
But that team absolutely should have won the division. What if that team has AJ Brown?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're clearly the class of the AFC South. So you've won a 4th straight division.
Yeah.
And who knows where it goes from there. You know, then you still probably at some point you're getting into the quarterback thing. But yeah, I think you could definitely make the case. Texter says you can't say he was a great GM and horrendous in the same sentence. It's either one or the other. Listen to me again. He was a good GM. Early, I'm not this is objectively true. He had great drafts. I mean, like 2016 and 2019 drafts are 2 of the greatest drafts in Titans history.
Yeah.
And the 2020, 21, and 22 drafts
are the worst.
Atrocious.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, but that's what happened. And then the overall picture is 61%, like you said, and good. He's a good GM.
Got one text says, how is John Robinson a good GM? His best first-round picks were Simmons and Jack Conklin, who are nothing special. He lit 3 straight draft classes on fire, traded A.J. Brown for Traylon Burks, which it's not what he traded, but okay. Got a ton of draft capital for the number 1 pick and basically got Derrick Henry out of it and nothing else. First off, that's not true of that at all.
So again, you're just spinning because you hate him. You left out a whole bunch of good stuff.
Yeah. Can we actually like be honest about a conversation at some point, or are we just going to have our heads shoved so far up our rear ends that we can't live in reality as to what actually happened here? I it's hard to take people like you seriously when you come in with texts like that. If you're just going to totally ignore reality at what happened. You know what he also did, which people I guess just forget about too. He also got Ryan Tannehill, who's the 2nd greatest quarterback in the history of the franchise, or certainly since they moved to Tennessee. Went to an AFC title game, won division titles. I want you to think about how far away this team right now is from that. And is he to blame for some of that? Yes. The A.J. Brown move is going to go down as one of the worst moves in the history of this franchise, all right? We talked about that at the time. And it ended very badly with John Robinson. And you know what? The trajectory it was on, he probably deserved to be fired at some point. The timing of which he got fired is not good. But
there was a conversation to be had.
I think there are some Titans fans that legitimately believe that he is like the worst GM in the history of the team. Yeah. And it's just unbelievable to me that where they're at right now and where the amount of success that they had from 2016 to 2022, like if you can't see that, then you just don't want to see it. Like I don't know what else to say.
No, it's funny because this is actually like the subject of my rant today. So it's perfect. That was a great lead in to that because it is. It's like, and it goes to the bigger picture of like, you got to take a stand. It's like Jared screaming at me yesterday. You and we talking around the situation. So we're, again, and some of his minions get into this too. Yeah, just take a stand. Well, I don't think they should fire these guys. I'm sorry. That's my opinion. So I don't agree that every time something goes bad, someone must be fired. So if you don't say immediately, you suck, you're out of here, or again, you're great, it's one or the other. If everything isn't black and white, then you're wishy-washy. No, sometimes things are gray. In fact, most things are gray. And John Robinson's a great example. John Robinson, like you said, like the picture, it's all there for us to see, and it was one thing, and then it went to another thing.
Yeah.
And if you want to talk about them all about the good things, you're spinning it.
And if you want to talk about all the bad things, you're spinning it the other way.
Can we talk about all of it? It's okay. We can talk about the whole thing. Things can be nuanced and complicated.
Well, I'll ask you this question. You brought this up with quarterback play, and I think it's a great question, and people scoffed at you at the time because you said, when's the next time the Tennessee Titans will have quarterback play as good as Ryan Tannehill? Well, they are light years away from peak Ryan Tannehill right now at the quarterback position. Light years. Forget Mahomes and forget the elite guys. They're a long way away from Tannehill right now. I'll ask you this. When's the next time they're going to have roster building the way that they had in the early part of John Robinson? Because right now, they're light years away from that too.
Right. Yeah, well, no doubt. I mean, it's all about, to me, it's all about drafting. I mean, you can't be terrible in free agency. Right now, the free agency looks bad. Drafting looks better, but it has to be, you got to stack that. And you have to, I mean, like in free agency, again, Robinson also, the trade for DeMarco Murray, really good. Signing Ben Jones, really good. So it wasn't just all drafting either. He did a lot of good things to fortify that team.
No doubt
early.
About it. No doubt about it. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Predators head coach Andrew Brunette. Preds back in action tomorrow, taking on the Chicago Blackhawks. They'll go for win number 2 in a row. We'll talk about that with Andrew Brunette next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keys are here with you on this Thursday morning. Preds get the W the other night. They're back in action tomorrow, taking on the Chicago Blackhawks. And we go now to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in Predators head coach Andrew Brunette. Andrew, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, fellas. Doing good.
Awesome. Appreciate you taking time to be with us. We talked after the game the other night, Andrew, just about the communication, the execution, just the progress made on the ice against the Bruins. Specifically with the communication, what did you notice about that part of the game that was different, and what do you think the tangible effect of that was in terms of your performance the other night?
Well, I think that's something you kind of forget about when you're going through something where you're not getting the success you want. You get frustrated and you get internal. And if you look through a group, I felt we're a little internal. We're all squeezing it. We're all feeling, we have more to give. We're frustrated. Frustration, talked about, such a dangerous emotion. And the only way you get out of it is helping each other. And I think communication is one of the biggest, values that we have here. And we just weren't doing that. And if you look at our group, usually that's at least from standing on the bench. I don't sit anymore, but standing on the bench and being with the guys, we've always spoke. We've always talked. We've always encouraged. We've always tried to stay positive. And we weren't really doing that. And I think really you could see it pretty evident last game that there was a lot of positive encouragement. There was a lot of talk. It doesn't always have to be positive either, but there's communication on where we're at in the ice. And I think, it's taken, this team a little bit to get comfortable. And the only way to get comfortable is being uncomfortable. And then sometimes that's talking and communicating when things aren't going well. Sometimes that's working a little harder. And I thought we did both last game.
Did anyone in particular sort of make that happen, Andrew?
Well, I think we got a lot of leaders. I think I think it was to a man, to everybody. I think everybody, Lowe's and Carr and obviously Factor. He was, obviously leads the way a lot of different nights, and So I think everybody was helping pull a little bit, just trying to pull us together, and just with that, try not to let that frustration, kind of get the best of us. And again, I thought as a group, we all took it upon ourselves to try to be a little bit more active that way.
So, Andrew, we saw a video that the Preds put out on social media of Zach LaRue getting the player of the game from the team in the locker room after there. I'm just curious, from your perspective, the way that he plays and the style of the game that he plays, how much do you think that kind of helped pull your group into the fight the other night?
Well, I think he brought, an intensity and a relentlessness that maybe we were lacking. I thought he dragged, other guys around him into the fight. I thought he was on pucks, and he has a really good stick and a really good feel for the game that allows him to get the pucks. And I thought that really helped a little bit of that identity of Big Mac's line. They were kind of searching a little bit the first 5 games. So I thought he pushed that to kind of look a little bit like we had it going last year. And he dragged not just them. I thought everybody into the fight with his enthusiasm and energy.
UC starts slow every year. And I don't know if you've come up with is there any sort of reason for that, like his style, or is it just a matter of some people take a little bit to get going? But is it fair to say that last game he stepped up his game, and do you feel like there's like a certain point in a season when you see him take it up a notch and then he kind of stays there?
Yeah, you hope so. Obviously only been around him a year, and last year, coming in the year, I think if you look at the hockey at the start of the year, it's pretty sloppy throughout the league. Not just, you saw an 8-7 game the other day. And I think for goaltenders, it's hard to kind of get in that rhythm and that flow. And the breakdowns are usually bigger this time of year than they are during as we kind of tighten up as the season goes on. But I wish I had get my finger on exactly what it is. I think nobody's more disappointed he was, in some of these lucky bounces that went in, and he took it upon himself to win us a hockey game the other night.
Andrew, the power play, you guys get another one the other night. You had a goal go in, 5 seconds after a double minor expired too. But just overall, what are you seeing on the power play right now? And specifically with that first unit, do you feel like you guys are pretty close to kind of busting out here and breaking through?
Yeah, I feel we've been really dangerous on the power play. I know we haven't got the results, but I mean, if you look at all the underlying numbers and by my eye too, I feel we're really dangerous. Things aren't quite going our way there. We've had a couple of them that we watch that you kind of wash through frustration. But I think if you look at the body of the work here through 6 games, we've created enough to be I think we're number 1 or 2 in expected goals for on the power play. So we're doing some things that are really good. They're not going in. We're squeezing a little bit. And the ones that I didn't like the cadence of the rhythm. I thought we were forcing things just out of pure frustration. But we've been able to kind of get ourselves back. And we scored the other night. The Novak group's created too. So I think both groups has looked, really good, minus maybe 1 or 2. And that's usually a pretty good sign. And when you're creating and you're getting those opportunities and the skill that we have, they're going to go in. I'd be worried, like I was at different stretches last year where we weren't creating. We didn't feel dangerous from the bench. This year, I feel kind of a little bit the opposite.
On that part, but obviously it's a huge addition to add Stamkos. Is there a balance there, Andrew, in terms of you want to utilize that shot, but also you want to make sure that you're keeping it balanced? And has that been any part of it early in the season for you guys?
Yeah, you probably nailed it right on. I think obviously when you add a piece in the scorer like Stamkos, I think even for our whole group, we're looking to get him the puck, and I think at times, and I wouldn't say all the time, but I think at times we're maybe forcing it a little bit, which is a sign of a good team. Obviously, you're trying to get him involved and trying to get him feeling part of the group. And it's that balance. At the same time, we still got to make the right play when the right play is there. And, I still think we've done a pretty good job of that, but I think that is a little bit of the focus that we've kind of maybe missed on plays that we're trying to set him up a little bit too much. But in saying that, we've had some great looks.
The players were talking after the game the other night, Andrew, just about the progress made in the defensive zone. And I know you said after the game, and you're right as a coach. I mean, you're always looking for better execution. But what specifically are you starting to see in the defensive zone that you think's really improving here?
Well, I think we've been, obviously, I think in the defensive zone we've been pretty good all year. I think where we took a step last game, especially, I really thought that we, our stick battles and our puck on sticks was at another level. And that's what's kind of made us so effective last year, where we're close on you quick, we get good sticks, and then we get physical, then we dislodge you from the puck, and we go the other way real fast. So that looked a little bit more like us last game. And really the season as a whole, I thought we've defended. Where we struggle a little bit is off the rush. And I think given those odd man rushes at different times, at the wrong times, is kind of put us in a little bit disadvantaged defensively. But I think in our defensive zone, we've been pretty structured and detailed. Of course, as a coach, I said the other night, you always want to be a little bit better. You're always pushing to be better. And kind of like I was saying, watching games every night, I think it's just a little loose. And the teams that get tighter faster are the teams that kind of push a little bit here early.
So is there a collective exhale to some extent here just to get a win and to stop that conversation? I know coaches, you don't want exhaling, but maybe gripping the sticks not quite as tightly, things like that. Like, do you feel like now there can be a little bit of evening out just from getting that one win?
I hope so. I think if you look at the body of work, it easily could have been, 3-2, 2-1. I thought we played some games that we probably deserved to at least get something out of. So as you look at it that way, but at the same point, you're still, 0-5. And I think as we get into that 0-5, I think, especially I would say since, 3 games at home, especially playing at home, you're trying so hard to get yourself out of it that you're missing a little bit of the process, and the wins just don't happen. You have to put the work in. You have to go through the process of growing together, being uncomfortable together. And we kind of at times wanted to skip that process. We wanted to be a little bit comfortable. We wanted it a little bit easier. And this league's hard. And when things aren't going well, it makes it even extra hard to kind of stick with it. So for me, as a coach, you're looking for them to stay in the process and find a little bit of joy in the process instead of the frustration in the process. And I think we have a great group of guys. I think we've worked really hard. We just got to bottle up a little bit what we had let go in last game. And I thought forced us to be a little uncomfortable. We talked to communication. I also talked to the relentless work ethic we had last game. for 60 minutes. I think we showed signs of, 20-minute games and 25 minutes at that consistent work ethic and that consistent relentlessness. But I thought we brought it for 60. And when you kind of get uncomfortable for 60, you hope you grow with it and you build off of it. And, we go into practice today and, you want to maybe squeeze the sticks a little less, but enjoy the work that we're putting in here to get better.
Well, Andrew, looking forward to the game coming up tomorrow. We will talk to you soon here on the program. Appreciate so much for your time, and we'll see you later today.
Okay, great. Good talking to you guys.
Absolutely. Andrew Burnett, Predators head coach, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. I do have to give a quick shout out, Joe, to our number one fan on Robby and Rexrode, Sarah Barnowski. Big fan of the Robby and Rexrode program.
Nice.
And we appreciate Sarah very much.
Yeah, Sarah. Sarah listens to us more than Nick.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt.
Well, I want to give a shout out to you because my question to Brunette there about Stamkos, so he was like, that's pretty good. Well, that's actually your point that you made this week. So I just stole your point.
No, you're
ask
welcome.
a question.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that'll make you feel better for the apparently partial judging that I had in the competition a couple weeks ago.
I don't totally forgive you, but we're getting there.
That's good.
That helps. Yep.
615-737-1025. The Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up next. We'll have Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports with us coming up at 8 o'clock. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
I say let Rand cook some sausage biscuits in the morning, early morning. Let us have some breaking news on our show. Thank you, Rand. Right now, this is when a locker room really needs good culture, as we like to say, because, you know.
It is time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every morning here on the program.
I was saying more there, and then you just cut me off, Nick.
I'm trying to
I was
speak
saying like this, blah, 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 blah,
sparingly because I just like listening to Kokomo in the background.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's been a while since Michelle used to love to play the Kokomo for me because I made it clear I hate this song.
I love this song.
Every
so Nick,
fiber.
fire it up whenever you want to.
Kokomo and Don't Worry, Be Happy by Bobby McFerrin.
Now that one, I'm with you.
Absolute, like the word, you're going to high school in the morning and you have to listen to these songs. Oh, absolute nightmare. I'm going to carry on. I'm going to take this to the Titans front office thing, but a couple things happened this week that I think are great examples of, like, you don't have to attach yourself to one side or the other of something. I mean, this is like it's as much a perma-rant as there is, right, in my life. And I think for the most part, you agree with me, Robby, but you're welcome to disagree on any of this.
Okay.
The multiple things being true thing that people struggle with so much. You know, again, it's like John Robinson wasn't good. He sucked. Or John Robinson was so good. Well, both things are like, you know, let's go through it all. It's complicated. So a couple of things. First of all, the Deshaun Watson thing, I was initially going to see if Nick could play the Jameis Winston impassioned defense of Deshaun Watson. You know, this man puts his life on the line, but we don't have time for that. I mean, I'm with you. Jameis Winston is very entertaining.
Yes.
This whole thing with Deshaun Watson and the way some people have acted about it, like he died or something. He had an Achilles injury, and he's a creep. I mean, like objectively, okay? Take away criminal aspects of it. He has done creepy, gross stuff with women. And by the way, Jameis Winston has settled a civil sexual assault case himself. So miss me with all that stuff, but also if you're fans who are cheering and like celebrating and chanting when a dude's on the field, miss me with that too.
Yeah. Miss
me with all of it. And I guarantee you some of those fans were the people who had like fake massage tables and stuff and dudes with like, it's just disgusting. Okay. So miss me with a whole bunch of it. It's not cool to boo him like that. Also, let's not pretend like he's some hero here.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. There's one. How about Bronny and LeBron this week? I've seen some people act like, oh, this is an incredible moment. I wouldn't go there. But then I've also seen people so angry about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a cool moment for a guy and his kid. If you're that organization, you make that guy happy. I don't know. You know, Bronny James might at some point be like a rotational player in the league. Yeah, he would have been a good college basketball player this year. That's what he should be. But hey, I mean, he's in the NBA with his dad. Fine. If that's what you want to do, it sounds like a great life.
Sure.
But like, both extremes of this. Like, this is not the Griffies. The Griffies happened, and you're talking about great players and son greater than dad.
Yeah.
And that happened. This was manufactured. That's fine. They got him in for 3 minutes. They went together. They got pictures. They had a great moment together. The Lakers won, which is good. The Lakers lost with Bronny playing 3 minutes. You know, then people are going to
begin
bitch about it. Yeah, like both with all this. I mean, yeah, I'm in the middle on some of these things. It's okay to be in the middle. And I look at the Titans front office, and I just think that anyone who thinks they know that these guys are idiots is full of crap. Like, you don't know that. Are things going poorly now? Sure. Does it have to get turned around? Yeah. Like, I think next year, if you have another bad team on the field, then I think that you can't reasonably expect in this league to have forever to show signs of progress. But again, like, every single move they've made is not terrible. Right now, more than not, look bad on the free agency front. This draft class, we talked about all these things. We had, like, this idea, and this does come from Jared versus USA, that you have to know, right? What is it right now? What is it? Are they this or are they this? I don't know. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm largely with you there. And, I understand. I also understand the frustration of Titans fans, right?
Absolutely.
And this is if you're a Titans fan, you're not viewing it as, well, some of you may be, but for the most part, you're not viewing it as, well, don't worry, like it's only Carthon and Brinker's second year and it's only Callahan's first year. It's like, well, no, this is the third year in a row that I've had to put up with watching this crap. So I get that. Like,
right.
I'm very sympathetic to Titans fans who are just totally over this. And we've talked about the myriad of reasons for that. And it ain't just the losing, it's the being abysmal to watch while you're losing. Like there's a whole lot that goes into that. But yeah, like, am I, as we sit here today on October the 24th, am I 100% convinced that Brian Callahan's a bad coach? No. Now, does that mean that I think he's done a good job so far? No, it doesn't. Like I'm leaving the door open that as they continue to churn the roster, as he continues to get a little bit more experience, both with play calling and with being a head coach here, that things ultimately get better. And, right now, I still think the biggest problem with this team is the fact that the quarterback's not good. Now, we can get into the selection, all that, and who to blame for that, and how much of it's on the owner,
These guys
how
get
much
the
of it's
blame.
on them. And
These guys get the blame.
all that
That's
stuff.
fine.
But, yes, I think there's nothing wrong with the take that you've just thrown out there. It's a very difficult concept for some people to grasp.
Well, I'm not even, and that's the thing. I'm not even, the Callahan thing is like, I mean, it's so early. But even with the front office, and I agree that different timelines not ideal, but it is still early. It is. I'm sorry. It's early, and it's not all bad. And I think the biggest concern with Titans fans is what we keep going back to. You go to the very top, and if it turns out that this front office is just incompetent and they can't figure this out and they can't find answers, well, the owner has done some serious damage and now must again try to.
Well, then you get to go find some new ones. That'll be fun too.
Well, right. But the idea that right now she should be resolved again, based on what we see on the outside, based on all these results, the idea that, of course, I mean, Jared actually said it would be courageous of her yesterday to fire them. Courageous. He would admire her courage for doing it. And it's like,
that's a take.
If that's how you approach doing these things, you will never have success.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports will be with us coming up next. We got a whole lot to talk about with Charles Robinson as it relates to the Tennessee Titans. We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keys are here with you on this Thursday morning. And as we do every week at this time, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports. Charles, good morning. How are you?
What's going on, gents? How you doing?
Busy week around here, Charles. A lot of things going on.
Yeah, no good.
Yeah, it's been quite interesting. So let's just start on the Hopkins front. So Hopkins gets moved to Kansas City, a 5th-round pick that has the opportunity to turn into a 4th-round pick if he plays 60% of the snaps and the Chiefs reach the Super Bowl. What do you make of that move from the Titans standpoint? What does that signal to you? And what do you make of the fit for Hopkins with Kansas City?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this last week with Hopkins, and look, I mean, it's hard for me not to see it as, okay, how do I interpret this in terms of the future of Will Levis? That was one of the things that we talked about last week was, do you pick up the draft pick that, isn't good luck with it? Maybe you turn it into something. More likely than not, you won't be able to, but anything that's really a 4th, 5th, 6th rounder for a player of that stature, when you're selling at that point, you're sending a message about your team. You're sending a message about the player. We knew he wouldn't be back. I mean, I guess I assumed he wouldn't be back next year unless certain things happened this year. If Levis really seemed to turn a corner, Hopkins played well, everything's turned in the right direction, then you try to see if you can stretch it out, particularly if you feel like it's helping Levis in his development. That wasn't happening, and none of that really has happened. So I think you get what you can out of him while you can, and then you weather what we're talking about now, which is, okay, if your intent is to continue to develop Will Levis, if he is the future of your team, why do you take away what has been his most reliable piece on offense when both are healthy, both are on the field at the same time? Will Levis's best moments typically have involved DeAndre Hopkins. Now you're taking that away. So what does that mean about the quarterback? Are you done? Has the Levis thing run its course? Are you now recalculating where you're going with Will Levis if you're starting to take capital off the field? I think those are all fair questions. I think another question I would ask is Calvin Ridley available? Who else is available on this offense that you could potentially take calls? For me personally, I think it's a sign that we're going to see in the long run that they're going to spend this offseason trying to figure out what else their options are at quarterback. And, do I think Will Levis could still affect that? Yeah, I do. Do I think he's at a critical moment of the season? Yeah, I really do. The next opportunity he gets is, for me personally, I think it's probably his last as a starter. And if things don't go well, they're definitely going to be looking at whether it's draft, whether it's free agency, whether there's a veteran out there that has a past history with Callahan. I think those will all be discussions in that building and where they could potentially, turn next at quarterback. So the fit in terms of Hopkins and the Chiefs, I think we talked about this too last week. I told you the two teams, everyone is saying we're absolutely going to acquire a receiver. We're the Chiefs and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So this makes a ton of sense to me from the Chiefs standpoint. Short-term option for Patrick Mahomes. I think Mahomes will be able to squeeze whatever Hopkins has left at this stage of his career. It's a rental. I think it'll be to the end of the season, but definitely adds, I think, the level of experience that they are looking for, the modest level of talent. He's not the same player he used to be, but I think they feel like, okay, Mahomes can still sort of raise all boats with what he does. And I think also he fits with Travis Kelce. I think they're looking to add a piece that can draw, potentially an extra defender. They're not trying to go out and get a younger guy who's still developing. They just want a reliable veteran who's got some, good hands, can come in and be a good locker room guy. knows what he's there for. They're there. He's there for the 3-peat. That's it. He's coming in for the 3-peat, and then after that, he'll be a free agent, in March. So it makes total sense, I think, from the Chiefs' standpoint. The Titans, it raises obviously some questions. I'm curious, what has what has the temperature been there? I mean, are people looking at this like, okay, that means they're out on Levis and the season's over, and here we are, dealing with this again. What a massive disappointment, and let's fire everybody. I mean, I assume that's probably
some people are saying things like that.
They are.
Well, the question is it's definitely a question worth raising on Levis, right? I mean, he's going to play more this year, but
sure.
But I agree. I mean, it's like if you take away a guy the one guy we know he has had chemistry with, and I don't think you can ignore that as a comment on the situation. So trading deadline. I'm gonna throw you a quick combo platter here. I assume the Bucs have got to get a receiver. It appears the Rams want to unload Matthew Stafford, and I know Mark Davis said hands off Max Crosby, but I mean I keep seeing these Lions fans with Max Crosby art with him in a Lions uniform, and I just wonder, like, is it possible that they're gonna unload the farm to get him?
Okay, so we'll deal with Max Crosby first. I talked to somebody inside the Raiders, and I was told straight up, like, there's no way he gets dealt unless he tells Mark Davis, I want to be dealt. Like, Mark Davis does not want to deal Max Crosby. He has an affinity for him. I think I told you when they fired Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler, when they made that entire big change last year, the three guys, so Mark was like, all right, I'm going to take counsel with players. And the three players he took counsel with were Josh Jacobs gone, Devontae Adams gone, and Max Crosby. So he's making these big future decisions.
That advisory board is dwindling.
Yeah, exactly. He's making these big future decisions, taking counsel with guys that, aren't even there at this point. And yet he's shaping the franchise based on that. And we've seen kind of how that's gone. Not great. But I've been told, like, look, Max Crosby is like one of Mark Davis's favorite players ever, like in history. Like, that's how much, he loves this guy. He loves him in the locker room, thinks that it's the one guy that he feels like he has had on that roster who, thick and thin, up and down, he shows up, practices hard, plays hard, and ultimately is basically just the player that everybody can point at and say, hey, man, no matter how bad it is, that guy usually brings his lunch pail. I hate that stupid cliche, and I just used it. And so, but again, if Max Crosby wants out, I think if Max Crosby, and again, this is based on what I'm told, if Max Crosby goes to Mark Davis and says, hey, man, I'm not about it. I got to get out of here. What are my options here? And I think then at that point, it would become a conversation in the franchise. As far as I know, that hasn't happened yet. And even if it did, we're talking like Khalil Mack level of compensation. I think they would. I really truly think the Raiders would want 3 firsts. And they also have, Telesco, the general manager there. Somebody made a really good point to me. I was talking to some other GMs, and they were like, when has Telesco ever done a big deal? He's like, go back to his Chargers time. It's just not him. He's not a big trader. He's not someone who in the past has constructed, these big, massive moves. And so, when you talk to other GMs about how trades come together, they're like, you have to deal with a GM who knows what they're doing, has done it in the past. And he does not have that history. And that clearly is an impediment. And I'll be honest with you, there have been other times too, where that is a true sentiment. Like, when you talk about trades, and this is for all fans, you talk about the Titans or, any trade in general, look at the GMs involved and figure out how realistic it really is. Because I remember at one point when the Deshaun Watson stuff was going on, I remember at one point the Texans were talking to another GM, and they were kind of going back and forth about potentially dealing Watson or some other picks or whatever. And the opposing GM was literally proposing things. It was like they're on the phone. He's like, all right, well, we could do this, this, and this. And they're like, you can't, like, the league office is closed today. We can't do any of these trades you're talking about. Like, we can, like, he was trying, like, on the clock during the draft to do some things that literally they couldn't pull off because the league office had been closed that day. You have to get in, trades by a certain time.
Right.
I think it's like 5 o'clock Eastern or whatever. And this was like an 8 o'clock conversation. And the GM was talking about like getting things done in the next hour. And they're like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, we can't even trade this. Like, this can't happen until tomorrow now. You've already wasted today. It's crazy, but like sometimes guys don't even know what they're doing. And that affects, whether or not trades can happen. So that's what I would say about the Raiders. The GM there does not have the history. The player is not pushing to get out. It seems really unlikely. And the compensation, like I said, I really do think it's 3 firsts. So there's that. What else were you asking? Oh, the Rams.
Stafford
and
then the Bucs.
Yeah. We'll go through the Rams. Okay, so the Rams. So I believe Kupp will get moved. There's the market for him. I absolutely think they can get a good pick for him, particularly if they decide they can eat some of the salary. Stafford's a little more interesting. It's, from the standpoint of like, if Kupp is going out the door and you're Matthew Stafford, you definitely have to sit there and go, yeah, I'm probably not coming back next year. Like, they're probably going to cut ties with me. There's a cap hit associated with it. They're going to split it over the 2025 cap, 2026 cap. This is sort of the end. But for the Rams, I think it's like, okay, if you were to trade Matthew Stafford, what is your option? Like, you need to be, if you're moving him, you need to be moving him with a quarterback plan in mind. If it's Jimmy Garoppolo, what are you really moving Matthew Stafford for at this point? Are you getting real assets out of him? You're going to have to pay him money to leave. There's a lot of like financial implications of it. It sounds good to say it. And I even think I proposed like Minnesota. I'm like, look, there is a lot of sensibility in a potential Minnesota trade because of the relationship he has with Kevin O'Connell. They've gone through a Super Bowl run together. I still think Stafford, surrounded by the right pieces, is a very high-level quarterback. I'm not out on Sam Darnold, but he's thrown 1 touchdown and I think 2 interceptions the last 2 games. You're like, okay, is there a cap ceiling on him? And are we going to start to reach it in the second half of the season, which is typically what happens. Guys will come out in the first half. They can play reasonably well. Teams sort of figure it out. There becomes a game plan for these guys, and then they fade the second half of the season. So is there a Sam Darnold fade coming? And if there is, you really need to consider, do we have another option, on the table right now? And if it's Stafford, how can we make that happen? For the Rams, I'm like, could you involve Darnold in a trade financially? The Vikings could take on Stafford and the remaining base salary, no problem this year. The Rams could take on Darnold and his remaining base salary, which is nothing this year because he's playing on a backup quarterback deal. Stan Kroenke would have to write a massive check. He would have to take it in the teeth. They'd have a pretty big cap hit that they'd have to, figure all that stuff out. So there's a lot of hurdles. Beyond that, I just don't know where else Stafford really makes any sense. He doesn't have a no trade clause, but I also don't think the Rams are going to say, we're just going to deal you to the Raiders or wherever without Stafford's sort of blessing. It's just like, you're going to have Stafford's blessing. I'm sorry. I don't think he's going to the Titans. He's not going to the Raiders. I think would he go to Minnesota? Yeah, potentially, because the OC, Kevin O'Connell, the head coach there, they played together with the Lions. They didn't play together. They were on the Lions roster together in 2009. So they know each other as players. He was Stafford's OC during the Super Bowl run, right? And Stafford was effusive in praise for Kevin O'Connell. They're very tight. I'm sure he also would look at it and go, okay, geez, well, I could stay here, not have Cooper Kupp. Team's banged up. They're going to be bringing along some young receivers.
Or go throw to Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, sure. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. Oh, a tight end, T.J. Hawkinson, who I threw to for a couple of years with the Lions. Like, it's a completely different situation. And, you got a chance to get in the Lions' way. And I do think you feel some kind of way with the Lions. So there's a lot of like layers here where you're like, yeah, I could see that potentially coming together. But here's the funny thing about this. We got this game tonight.
Yeah.
And
the Rams win, they get the trade. Yeah.
Right. Well, so here's the wild thing. Like, no matter what happens tonight, it kind of damages a potential trade. If the Vikings win, they're sitting there and going, man, we're right back on track with Sam. Like, we're fine. Like, look at we'll be 6-1. We're rolling. Do we really want to screw with this at this point? Because it gets dicey, like you don't know if anything, chemistry wise, if this is going to come together. You're playing with fire in the middle of a season. No one's ever pulled anything like this off before. It's kind of crazy to even think about. Now, if the Rams win, if the Vikings don't win and the Rams win, I'm telling you, inside that organization, having talked to McVay, having talked to Les Snead, the GM, they absolutely will be like, we can fix this. Like, we can get this. Like, we can do this. Like, hey man, we just beat the Vikings. Okay, man, we're getting it together. Puka Nakua's coming back. He's, slated for return from IR. We're going to get these guys back. We're not going to trade Cooper Kupp. We're not going to trade Matt Stafford. We're going to make a run. We're going to go for it. I think no matter what the outcome is tonight, I think it changes potentially the calculus of most especially a Matt Stafford trade. So that's kind of interesting. The Buccaneers, the receiver situation. Yeah, I mean, I do think that they would definitely be in the market to shop for a guy. I can honestly tell you, I don't know who it would be at this point, because this all happened so suddenly that it's just like everything's humming and it's going great, and then the right and left wheel both fall off the car. It's like insane how much of a curveball they've been thrown all of a sudden. I can't even tell you who they would be in the market, to acquire. And by the way, the Steelers are still going to get somebody. The Steelers are absolutely looking to add a wide receiver. And I think the Lions could potentially still add an offensive piece. I think if they feel like we can't add a defensive piece, maybe we want to add some depth offensively, maybe a receiver, because Jameson Williams can't stop getting suspended, be available. There's some frustration there with him. And, so I think other contenders too could still potentially add wide receiver pieces. I mean, the 49ers, frankly, at this point are kind of like, okay, Ayuk's out, Debo's banged up, Kittle's not healthy. They're looking at rolling like Ricky Pearsall, who got shot. It's like that. I mean, I don't mean to laugh about that, but it's crazy at this stage how much has changed, for the 49ers and the pieces they have on the table. So there's quite a few teams, I think, looking for wideouts, which is why I say I'd call about Calvin Ridley. I feel like, okay, if you're willing to deal Diop,
good God.
What about Ridley? Are you willing to deal Ridley? Because,
talk about giving up if you're the Titans, though. Talk about acknowledging just a complete screw up if you're the Titans, though. If you were,
I'm not saying that they would deal Ridley, by the way. I'm just saying that's the bat signal to me when you see them trade DeAndre Hopkins. If you're a team that says we need pieces, let's review their roster. That's the first thing I would do, is sit down and go, okay, who do they have that could help us? And let's see if they're potentially open to moving him, because, hey, they just moved this guy, and that definitely takes a piece off the table for their young quarterback. That sends us the signal that they're sellers right now. Let's see if they're sellers on something else.
So, Charles, as you know, there been a lot of firings around here recently. Vrabel gets fired last year. John Robinson gets fired in the middle of the season a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Things are going very poorly for the Tennessee Titans right now. So my question to you is this, because this is a big debate here in town. Let's say things continue along the path they're on right now, and I don't know any reason why they wouldn't. And they're either one of the worst teams in the league or right there in that ballpark at the end of the year. This is year 2 for Rand Carthon and Chad Brinker. Right. Obviously, it's year 1 for Callahan, and I kind of separate him from this conversation. Do you think Amy Adams Strunk would give serious consideration for moving on to the front office? Should she do that? And if she did, what would that tell you about her, given everything that's gone on at this place the last couple of years?
I mean, in terms of the question of would she, I think any owner, it depends how the season finishes, right? So if this completely craters and you lose, let's say you lose out the rest of the season, the first thing you do is you sit down and you go, okay, let's review the situation. You have the conversation with Rand. Why did this happen? What went wrong? What were the mistakes that were made? And then you have to ask Rand, what is the plan at this stage? This clearly fell apart. The quarterback's not working. There are fundamental questions now that we have on the roster. Is this a total rebuild? If it's, you don't have the quarterback, I argue teams without quarterbacks are always in a state of rebuild. You're never right until you ultimately can resolve that position. So maybe the first question you say is, explain to me what went wrong, what were all the problems, what were your failures, what would you do differently? And then the next thing I need to know is, what is the plan at quarterback? If this is not our quarterback, where are we getting a quarterback? What does the draft look like? When the season's over, obviously you have an idea of where you're positioned draft-wise. You know what your capital is in future years. What's the opportunity moving forward? And then I think you have to make your judgment based on those answers. I also think there's an element too that leads to the firing of general managers and coaches is does the team give up at this point the rest of the way? Do you see, are the leaders sort of out? They're like, no, we're not putting in good practices. The RV's running in the parking lot the rest of the season. We're just waiting for it to get over so we can get out of here. And then what's the relationship between the coaching staff and the front office? Is there dysfunction there? That's what led to the whole Vrabel situation, right? It was an element of how do I feel about the head coach? How does the head coach feel about the general manager? What's the functionality of the layers? And I want to be careful how I say this because I know in media markets, it's the knee-jerk reaction.
Just say it, Charles. Just say it.
When things go poorly, okay, in football seasons, the knee-jerk reaction in every market, it's not just, Nashville, it's everywhere. The knee-jerk reaction is to give someone the adrenaline shot they want, the listeners. Fire everybody, It's the dumb response. It is, because it's not nuanced. It's just the reaction to everything's bad. We just need to fire everybody, and that'll make us feel better. Okay, well, what are you getting at on the other side? That's the question that fans have to ask themselves. If we fire everybody, for what purpose? What does that serve? Who are we getting to on the other side of this? I watched it with the Jets and Robert Saleh. Everyone, all the Jets media and the fan base there, when they fired Saleh, on the other side of it, there was this like, yeah, we did it. They did it. They fired that guy. And what did you get? Yeah, they went and got Davante Adams. Awesome, great. What did you get? You look like crap again. Nothing changed. Nothing got better. You still look like crap. Now you have an interim coach where you're like, I don't know. Does Ulbrich know what he's doing? You're already asking that. You have Aaron Rodgers coming out going, Davante Adams just gave the most impassioned, real speed. Look, cool, dude. Awesome. Great.
He's been there 5 minutes. He's leading the team.
100%. What does that change? Sweet, dude. Good story. Appreciate it. Doesn't really change anything. We still are in a hole. We're still one more loss from everything falling apart. They lose one more game, it is over. People will quit inside that team so fast that, so that's my thing. Like, be smart as fans, right? Like, don't just go, I need somebody to get fired to make me feel better about how crappy this has gone. Okay, and what did we accomplish? You're not going to get better on the other side of it. It doesn't save the season. It doesn't. What are the long-term answers? That's what you should be asking yourself before you go, just fire people to make us happy. I don't mean to be critical. Like, I've been there too, right? I have done that. I have been the person who's like, this dude's terrible. They need to get him out of here. I covered Marty Morton like he was the Lions, for God's sake.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I covered
he was fireable. No, he was too.
I covered Matt Millen, right? Like, how many receivers in a row are you going to draft in the first round? Like things where I'm like, they need to fire. Absolutely. But I was also in my 20s, and I was like, I never asked the question, like, why though? Like, what are we getting to on the other side of it? What's the answer?
Well, if somebody's incompetent enough, then even if you don't have that answer, you have to do it, right? It's just a matter of when you know that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's part of the conversation we're having, the why. Like, if it's total incompetence, okay. It was like the Raiders. When the Raiders fired Josh McDaniel, like when Josh went in there and he told me all these stories about what he learned and I'm like, okay, all right, I'll buy this, that maybe you really did figure something out when you went back to the Patriots. Okay, you have the GM you want, all these different things. I kind of bought into that. But when he got fired at that point, the players that was it. It was over. They had revolted. They're like, we are not playing for this guy. He's terrible. We don't like anything about the organization. This is all wrong. It's broken. So to me, I'm like, okay, I get that. Like at this point, like I get it. If you're at this point where it's like the players are like, we're done. It's over. We will not win another game. We're done playing for this guy. It's nothing but cancer at this point. I get it at this stage. Are the Titans there? That's my question to you. Do you think the organization right now, are the players like, coaching staff doesn't know what they're doing? We're out. Like, we're just quitting. Like, it's over. Do you feel like that? Do you feel like Rand Carthon as a general manager has done nothing right? There are some GMs who do nothing right. I mean, like, and I'm not going to name names because there's like people who I respect in the business who I've known for years who have done a good job until they got to the GM position, and then they did every wrong thing when they and I'm like, okay, I get that firing. I've had people I have really good relationships with. I've watched them get fired and had a hard time saying to them after the firing, man, it's just so unfair, you know, because I don't feel that. I'm like, no, I kind of get it, man. You screwed up every way you could. You deserve it. So I ask you guys, the coaching staff not know what they're doing. The players completely out on the staff, number one. And number two, is Rand unredeemable as a general manager? Has he done nothing right as a general manager there?
I'd say one. I mean, I wouldn't say that at this point. And no, Rand has not done. I'm trying to how many negatives. Rand has not done nothing right.
Yes, he's not done everything wrong.
Yeah, that's a better way to say it. There you go. Yeah, but it's bad right now. But I mean,
it's bad.
QB.
He's not done a lot of things right either. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, more wrong than right. I think is fair for sure.
And here's what I will say to you as well as fans, the fans that are listening. The worst organizations I see in the league, the absolute worst, the dregs, the worst owners are the ones who constantly make change because they feel like they have to make change. The Raiders are terrible. Mark Davis is a terrible owner. He's a terrible owner. I have no problem saying that. Okay. And that is not, well, how can you be an unbiased person covering? That is not bias. It is literally my intellectual analysis of Mark Davis as an owner. He is a terrible owner because he makes change that doesn't make sense. He listens to the wrong people. He repeatedly hires and makes bad hires. And then once he does it, he gets involved in the situation and muddies up things that are going on with the construction of the people he hires. You don't want to be that kind of an organization. The Panthers are who they are because of ownership. Okay. The Raiders are who they are because of ownership. Do you want ownership that constantly just keeps swapping out coaches, swapping out general managers? You know, and by the way, you're asking for your owner to get involved again. Do you want that? Do you want an owner that's constantly meddling with the construct? You don't. I swear you don't. You do not want that. You want something closer to, may he rest in peace, the best dynamic I have seen is a Paul Allen type, where it's like, I'm hiring two people I trust. There's going to be some dynamic tension between them. I'm going to let them do their jobs. And when it's over at the end of the year, I'm going to go, okay, what did we mess up on? What were our successes? What were the reasons for it? And now how can we repair this? What did we learn? That to me that's the ideal. Hire your people, let them do what they're going to do. When it's over, sit down and go, was it a success? What is it a failure? And how do we remedy the failures in the operation? How do we take advantage of the successes? Not, Amy's got to get involved here. She's got to fire some people. She's got to, that's the right thing to do. I say for what? For what? If she's got somebody who's available right now, if she's sitting there going, I believe in Bill Belichick. I think he is a mastermind. I have to have him. That's why I'm firing, the coaching staff. That's why I'm firing the general manager. Okay, that's an answer. I don't think that's what's going on right now. Okay.
Yep.
So everybody, I get frustration. I understand it. It's the worst. It is the worst to cover a bad team. It's the worst to be a fan of a bad team. It's awful to go along with a bad organization. I wanted to fire Dan Campbell 7 games into his second season.
Yeah.
I did, straight up. I was telling people in Michigan, like, why? Why do you guys, why are you not upset about this? He's objectively terrible. His record is awful. And yet fans are like, we believe in him. He wants to be here. We think they'll get it turned around. I was like, y'all are crazy. And they did. They traded for Jared Goff. I'm like, he'll be gone in a year. Like, they're going to cut this guy. Like, they're not going to pay Jared Goff. He's not going to turn it around. And he did. So that's my rant, man.
There you go. I like it.
That's a good rant.
Therapeutic here today.
That was a lot of expended.
That's a good rant.
It is a very good rant.
Oxygen. There you
Rob
go. I gave
rant.
you a rant.
Not the Rob rant, the Robin rant.
Robinson
Robin
rant.
rant?
There you go.
Robinson
Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports.
See Rob rant.
Lot to react to there. We'll do that next. Take your thoughts, 615-737-1025. Robbie and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Join Jared Stillman, Chris Sanders, and Derek Mason at Twin Peaks and Madison this Sunday for the pregame show from 9:30 to 11:30. They'll break down the Titans' Week 8 matchup against the Lions and give you the latest updates before the game. Pregame show presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment, Sundeck Nashville, Sloan's Motorcycle ATV, and award-winning Blue Note Juke Joint and Blue Note Crossroads Bourbon. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, here on the program.
We gonna play it? I thought we were playing this.
I don't know. We have to do it later. We're out of time.
Are we okay? I don't know what I thought we were coming in with this. All right. Wait a minute. Dude, wait. You're playing the Brady Bunch theme song. No, the Stilly. No. You know what I'm talking about now?
No, I have no idea.
The Stilly. Okay, all right. You know what I'm talking about,
I do know
right?
what you're talking about, yes.
Yeah, this
You weren't specific telling me.
Yeah, the
You
Brady.
goober.
Yeah, well, the Brady Bunch thing is the Stilly thing that he put together with Rand and all them. Sunshine Day. That's Brady Bunch.
Yeah, you didn't tell me that though.
Yeah.
You just said Brady Bunch.
Okay. I mean, I like the Brady Bunch theme song too, but
it's all good.
Yeah. Oh well, I thought that would be fun, but we have to probably go to break now.
Oh, pretty close.
Tua!
Wow. How about the Charles saying, "Hey, if you're a team out there looking for a wide receiver, maybe give Titans a call about Calvin Ridley."
Yeah, Charles said a lot of stuff. That was that was interesting. I don't know.
You can give him a call.
Give him a call. I mean, I think that would, if the Titans were willing to deal Calvin Ridley, then I'd start to drift a little bit closer to these guys have no clue of what they're doing type thing. I mean, but also like if I'm a
maybe
team,
he wants out.
Right. But if you're a team out there, he just signed that deal. You see what's going on with him. You're
Well, I don't think it will be a hard sell around the league to look at his career and see the production and then look at the quarterback play here and say, yeah, that's probably reason number one.
Yeah, true. But also last year was a good year. It just wasn't. It was an underwhelming year. But the deal,
I know.
Yeah, the deal is a little bit of a deal breaker.
I know.
I think for the most part. But hey, I suppose.
Hey, maybe make the
possible.
call. Maybe somebody makes the call.
Charles was impassioned there. Again, the thing is, like, first of all, a great point. That he was wrong. Like we're all wrong all the time. I think it's wrong to think right now. I think sometimes people just think they know something. It could be good or bad, and it's just early, I mean, it's, just go through like the Levis, the certainty that he was going to be great or the real strong feeling, and now he has no chance. He will never complete a pass in the league again. There is that, right?
Yeah.
Look, I'm pessimistic, but I don't know. I don't know what Levis is 20 starts from now. Will he get 20 starts?
No, not if he keeps playing this way.
Not if he keeps playing this way. No,
Yeah.
Of course not. If things continue exactly as they are, then it's easy to know what will happen. But the problem is we don't. Like Dan Campbell, I do have my questions about Lions fans being. I mean, I'll take Charles at his word, but were Lions fans actually like, oh yeah, Dan, we love this guy. We just like his grit. I think a lot of people thought he was an idiot at that point. Charles was not on an island thinking Dan Campbell was an idiot at that point before they
turned it around
rapidly and dramatically turn things around.
615-737-1025, our phone number. More of your thoughts on the Titans coming next. A lot of thoughts from Charles as well, which we'll get to. This is Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Tune in to 102.5, 106.3 The Game this Saturday at 11 a.m. for our college football game of the week. Oklahoma taking on Ole Miss, presented by Twin Peaks Restaurant. Take your tailgate to Twin Peaks, home of 29-degree drafts and wall-to-wall sports. Taking your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. Did not sound, Joe, like Charles Robinson was a big fan of the idea of Rand Carthon and or Chad Brinker.
Well, yeah, but it was a bigger picture conversation, which I agree with, right? It's just like, I mean, you do need information to make big decisions like that. Amy Adams Strunk, as we've talked about, has already made some rash decisions. That's not why you don't do it. I mean, if you have determined that, oh my God, what have I done? I've completely screwed this up. These guys actually are clueless. Well, then it's on you to make the move, to be courageous, some may say, and make the move. But again, we're well, not we, one person is like stating as fact that it's clear that this must be done based on the information that we all have out here, and I disagree.
Let's go back.
You're welcome to agree if you like.
I'm not there yet, but look, I am more open to it. Like, I think that there's a bigger chance that it may actually happen than I think you do.
Right, but that's a different discussion.
That's a different discussion. But
the discussion is, do you think it should happen?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I'm there yet. I can also say that I have a ton of confidence based on what I've seen from this regime so far that they are the right people to fix it moving forward. I mean, they've shown me nothing that would lead me to believe they're the right people to fix it.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's like I look at Levis, like I'm pessimistic, but I'm also not giving up on him forever right now. I'm just not. So you are saying you are
that
pessimistic, but you would not be firing them right now.
That is correct.
Okay.
Let's go back to our 102.5 The Game phone line. Welcome in Adam in Portland. Adam, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, I'm looking for something to hang my hat on for this season. Number one, I would not fire Rand, but he's kept them healthy, which is pretty awesome. Like, if you're looking for something, we're losers, but we're healthy losers for the most part, man. So just look through the year. You know what I look, man? Look through the years. I look at the bad Titans teams. I don't know if you remember this specific game, and it's crazy that I pull up things like this. But do you remember there was a game where Malarkey was head coach, and the Titans were playing against the New Orleans Saints, I believe, and the game ended with Marcus rolling to his right and throwing the ball, lobbed it across field for Fasano. Do you remember that? That kind of sparked that team, man. And this team's going to need something like that. And Malarkey, he was special, dude. For people who are like, oh, yeah, everybody's ready to run him out. I wasn't ready to run him out. I didn't want Vrabel in here. For people who act like J-Rob was great because he had to go get Vrabel and have it. No, I wanted Malarkey, dude. Malarkey, he's everybody's dad, dude. Like, he was awesome. He brought a crap team that had Bishop Stanky and all these horrible players. Like, I mean, I think what was his name? The Falcons receiver we had was our best receiver.
Well, I don't want to sit here and relitigate 2016.
What I'm saying though about that is, like, that team was down and Malarkey pulled them up. There's nobody pulling this team up. That team would beat this team right here bad.
Oh,
I think we lost that.
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree that team would. Well, wait, is he saying the 2015 team? That'd be a good matchup. Yeah, not the 16 team.
Yeah, 15.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's
what a fantasy matchup that would be.
Yeah, if you could highlight some NFL history of matchups to see, I'm sure that's near the top of everybody's list. I mean, look, the main difference in that is at the time you had a quarterback that you were starting to feel good about, right?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah,
yeah, you felt
this
good
one's
about
going
him.
the other way.
You didn't really start questioning Marcus until year 3.
Correct.
Right.
So, and it's
very, very different.
Very early in year 2, and this is already moving way the other direction.
Beyond
with
questioning.
Yeah. So,
sorry for the angry show. I think tomorrow we do need to play Sunshine Day by the Brady Bunch at some point. That's my promise to you.
There's a lot to be angry about right now. That's going to do it for us. I believe Stilly's coming up next.
Wow.
From 9 to 11. That's happening coming up next.
Cool.
This is 102.5, 106.3 The Game.